What do you get when you have a crown jewel of racing, but the cars still can't pass? You get the Southern 500 at Darlington Raceway. But before we get to a crown jewel of NASCAR with less passing than my constipated baby, let's talk about F1, who are back from the summer break. The Dutch Grand Prix, Max Verstappen's home race, a fact that is about as enlightening as the weather reports were for all weekend. Oh yes, let's talk about the weather. You see, there are about 9 billion different reports calling for rain, and the track became about as wet as the New Mexican desert. Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris locked out the front row, with Max Verstappen and Isaac Hadjar third and fourth. Wait, Isaac Hadjar, that kid that crashed out on the formation lap in Australia? Fuck yes, it was that Isaac Hadjar. He said, "Hold my baguette," and slapped that RB onto the second row like a boss. Can I help you? In a completely different line of thinking, Lance Stroll continued to be a disgrace to the family name and team by completely fucking it into the wall in turn 13 after dipping a wheel into the grass.
What the fuck are you doing?
Now, before all two of Lance Stroll's fans say anything, just start talking shit, no, I don't think I can do any better. My fat ass wouldn't even fit in the car. But you're telling me there's nobody else out there who can drive better? Or at least not crash all the time? Anyway, it's lights out and Richard Nixon did nothing wrong. Off the jump, Lando Norris is Lando Norris and gets passed by Max Verstappen in turn 1. If there was an award for most places lost on lap 1 of a race, I think Lando would be running away with that championship. He would eventually get the place back because he is driving an actual fighter jet while Max is stuck in a little Tyke's cozy coupe. On lap 23, Lewis Hamilton gets high on the banking of a turn and spins out when he gets loose on the paint. Because of this obvious crime against a representative of a former global superpower like Britain, the Netherlands will formally be annexed as the newest British colony. That's right, you thought the British Empire was dead? Nope, the Queen is still alive, King Charles is 3 monkeys in a trench coat, and the British are launching a preemptive strike in Argentina right now to stop them from taking the Falklands again. On lap 27, Carlos Sainz was sentenced to be burned at the stake for a dust-up with Liam Lawson in turn 1. A 10-second penalty for something that was entirely Liam's fault. Then on lap 53, Kimi Antonelli tells Charles Leclerc Don Russell sends his regards before executing him with a sawed-off shotgun, otherwise known as crashing Charles out of the race.
Salieri sends his regards.
Kimi the Capo would not get away cleanly, however, and would be sentenced to life in prison, otherwise known as a 10-second penalty. So to review the FIA's penalties, you get hit, you get a 10-second penalty. You hit someone else, you also get a 10-second penalty. Are we sure they haven't taken NASCAR's Magic 8 Ball? So Lando Norris is chasing down Oscar Piastri, setting up a great battle between the championship leaders. But then, on lap 65, Lando's car has itself a smoke break, and he retires from the race. What was a close championship battle is basically dust in the wind. Oscar Piastri continues to drive like a soulless monster and wins, followed by Max Verstappen and Isaac Hadjar. Wait, Isaac Hadjar? Yes, Isaac Hadjar, the man, the myth, the meme. Isaac Hadjar now has a podium in Formula 1, and he did it in that RB. Oscar is now 34 points clear of Lando in the championship. Ferrari does a Ferrari, but it's not their fault for once. And Oliver Behrman and Lance Stroll would finish in the points from a pit lane and 19th start, respectively. From the Netherlands to Nashville, the IndyCar Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix. The last race of the year with maybe the worst name ever. In the first corner, Christian Rasmussen loses it and hits the wall. Apparently, he was partying a little bit too hard last week after his first win and was a bit hungover. What a shame. On lap 52, Alex Palou has a tire go down, but because he's a racing demigod, he doesn't completely fuck it into the wall, and he gets it to pit road. See, if this were someone else, like say, just picking at random here, Stingray Rob, they would have gone straight into the wall and mocked Jesus. But instead, Alex gently applies the brakes, brings it down the track, and gets the tire replaced. See, you don't have to kill yourself or kill your race when you lose a tire. Just don't crash and you're probably good to go. On lap 83, David Malukas is running down Louis Foster, who says, "Not so fast, dickhead," and swerves up a bit to try and block David. Now, normally, you try to block someone when the car is still behind you, not when they already have a wheel alongside. So Louis sends David up the track, and when they both come back down the track, David loses it and smacks the wall. For this crime against AJ Foyt Enterprises, Louis Foster was sentenced to return to the UK. A fate worse than death. On lap 127, Pato O'Ward has a wheel go down, and because he's not Alex Palou, he hits the wall and ends his day. To be fair to Pato, his wheel went down in the corner and Alex lost his on the straight. But that doesn't fit my worldview. So Pato is out, one final insult to the injury of losing out to Palou in the championship.
I hurt myself today.
Scott McLaughlin is leading ahead of teammate Joseph Newgarden, and he would end up tapping the wall but would be able to continue, but this means that Joseph is now leading. And somehow Joseph ends up winning the race ahead of Alex Palou and Scotty Mack. After a year of the Penske Pain, Joseph Newgarden finally wins the race. So with that, the IndyCar season comes to a close. And in my opinion, and that's the only opinion that really matters here, it was one heck of a year. And I'll save the general reviews for the full offseason. Not that anyone's watching this, but I'm going to try to do stuff in the offseason. But shout out to IndyCar, you were a blast this year. Kind of like how Santino Ferrucci blasted himself into the wall. The end of a season to the start of a bullshit championship. The Cookout Southern 500 at Darlington, NASCAR's last crown jewel of the year. Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe locked out the front row for Joe Gibbs Racing, with playoff drivers making up the first 12 spots on the grid. On lap 1, Josh Berry, who landed that Wood Brothers car to third somehow, has his car snap loose and smacks the wall. He would go back to the garage for repairs, but would finish last and 128 laps down. This is not a good start for Josh, who is in the playoffs based on his win at Vegas. To make it anywhere in this championship format, he has to do well every week. Well, way to go, champ. You're off to a great start. Then it's Darlington and the next-gen car, and that's to say we're just logging miles like a semi going across Kansas. Some shenanigans on pit road when Bubba Wallace tells Zane Smith, "Fucking try me, bro." Carson Hocevar making friends before having himself a bit of a spin on track and in his pit box, and all sorts of other problems for the pit crews. On lap 203, Cody Ware gets rammed up the ass by Ryan Preece and just loses it, in kind of a dick move. I guess Ryan didn't get launched into orbit at Daytona last week, so he decided to try and launch Cody Ware there himself. Derek Kraus has himself a barbecue and shoots flames out from under the hood. This wins this week's Mamma Mia, That's a Spicy Meatball Award. Follow-up question, who is Derek Kraus? So coming down to the wire, Chase Briscoe is leading the race with Tyler Reddick running him down. And he keeps running him down. And keeps running him down. And Chase Briscoe is running on a bad electrical system, so he's going to surely catch him. And Tyler's running him down, and he's clearly in a faster car, and he isn't going to do shit. Because this is the next-gen car. So Chase Briscoe wins the Southern 500 after leading over 300 laps.
Boring!
You've got to be shitting me. Chase Briscoe, the man I made up a whole bit about being on the depression meter earlier this year, has won a second Southern 500 in a row. You know what stuck out to me? Not the fact that Chase Briscoe won when Tyler Reddick was in a literal rocket ship. No, it's the fact that Josh Berry, who crashed out on lap 1, came back out to run laps and somehow got the fastest lap. And let me rephrase that. A car that hit the wall and would have picked up damage to the all-important aerodynamic body and probably the underbody as well, got the fastest lap of the race. NASCAR, can we please admit now that there's a problem with this car? There has to be a better way. Far too many times, passes can only be made around the restarts, and after all that, it's just logging laps. Seriously, this was on Labor Day weekend. The NFL hadn't even started yet, and you can market this as a crown jewel, and this is the product we're okay with? Who could guess why fan excitement, attendance, and give a fuck are down? Let's move on to the awards before I lose my shit. The Be Careful What You Wish For award goes to Colton Herta, who announced he is leaving IndyCar to become the test driver for the new Cadillac F1 team and take a seat in F2. Is the prospect of F1 so good that you will leave a guaranteed seat where you're racing for an established team in America's top open wheel series? That seems like a huge gamble, and that's not even a gamble on yourself. It's on a brand spanking new F1 team and the possibility of finding an F2 ride.
A bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
The RIP Princess Award goes to my family's hamster. Being a parent is weird because, fuck that little rodent. But the absolute sadness the kiddo had when it died, that may have broken me. You wonder why I do these videos? It's to avoid my emotions and my baggage. See, I make fun of others and pretend to be better than them all the time to hide the soul-crushing emptiness I feel. What were we talking about? The I Wish His Name Was Back award goes to the Bojangles Southern 500. Now, this is no offense to Cookout. Thank you for giving NASCAR your money. But the Bojangles Southern 500 was such a good piece of Southern marketing. If we are going to insist on putting our sponsor names and the race names, can we at least have some fun with it? Or, alternative, or just do away with sponsor names and the crown jewels. You know, maybe treat the crown jewels as like the special events they are and not just another race. Anyone? See, I pulled the sneaky on you. I said the absurd thing up front to make the actual point later. Big brain move.
Very, very large brain. He said
the Leave the Gun, Take the Cannoli award goes to Capo Kimi Antonelli for assassinating Charles Leclerc after Charles roped up Don George Russell. And yes, from now on, I will be referring to Mercedes as the mob. The I'm Not Saying I'm Right, but award goes to Shane Van Gisbergen. SVG finished 32nd. The only other playoff drivers to finish outside the top 30 was Alex Bowman, who had a pit stop that looked like it was performed by circus monkeys, and Josh Berry, who crashed on lap 1 and finished dead last. I'm not saying I'm right, but there are no road courses this round. So to review, Lando Norris will lose the championship because he's allergic to holding positions on lap 1. Joseph Newgarden remembered how to drive. NASCAR still won't admit there's a problem with the car. The FIA has taken NASCAR's Magic 8 Ball for their penalties, and Chase Briscoe may just now need a happy meter. Thank you, and remember, the car isn't a problem if we gaslight the fans into thinking it